Alright, on the rainy flatlands, here's an old but all too familiar sight. This is the Heir of Carthage doing a little bit of Empire Total War throwback. This is my Pueblo Total Ownage army. I've got 4 units of tribesmen as a meat shield. I have 8 units of heavily upgraded warriors whose melee stats are off the charts. And there they are. They're painted up like clowns, but these aren't the happy kind of clowns. I have these medicine men, and they're going to bolster the morale of my soldiers, and that's how I keep my natives from routing. And in the rear I have 6 units of upgraded crow horse warriors, and these guys mean business. You know they have to mean business when they come to battle, basically wearing only a loincloth. So let's take a look at my opponent's army. He has somewhere in the neighborhood of 9 or 10 line infantry. He's got 4 units of Hungarian hussars. His general is among these. Here he is right here, in fact, I think. Or do they have one of those in every unit? Yeah, they have one in every unit. Anyway, his general's somewhere around here. And on his other flank, he has 5 units, of Grenzers. These are 5 units of Grenzers. Those are going to be very dangerous to him. And he also has 3 units of light dragoons. So my opponent has brought a very tough army. And seeing my army kind of all bunched up, he's gone to surround me, which is a fairly sound tactic. Now let me explain my tactic. For those of you who didn't see my old Empire Total War battles, I use my tribesmen as a meat shield. Here you can see them charging into battle. And basically their purpose is to get the enemy line infantry to fire off their volleys. If they actually get into melee and make some kills, fine. If not, then it doesn't really matter, they've served their purpose. So that's why they're spread out real wide. It's to encompass the firing arc of all of these line infantry. And now you can see that the Austrian line infantry is in the midst of reloading. And so now they're going to not be able to continue reloading because they're in a melee fight with my tribesmen. Now, they will win the melee fight with my tribesmen, but the meat of my army is just behind. Now here I've already started the fight with this Hungarian hussars, and in every way, shape, or form, crow horse warriors are completely superior to European light infantry. And you can see here with this little thing that came down, the enemy general is dead, and that really hurts the morale of the Austrians. You can see a chain rout amongst the cavalry. My crow horse warriors have bow and arrows, so they fire shortly before entering melee and cause massive damage, and then they have extremely high melee stats. And so now I'm going to take my victorious men here and charge headlong into this unit of Austrian line infantry, which isn't really all that prepared to fire. So here comes the charge, and these line infantry are in some severe trouble. My crow horse warriors will easily defeat them. You can see the Austrian morale is already wavering in the line infantry fight. Let's take a look at that fight. We'll scan up the lines, get you some close-ups. My troops are very superior statistically as far as melee attack. So the best way that I've found to use the natives is this. You have to do meat shields and rush tactics, because any extended firefight with Europeans would be suicide. Here you can see, moving down the line, it is a big mess. And like I said, here you can see the Austrians chain routing. Over here, the only place I didn't do so well is my crow horse warriors got shot to pieces getting to his dragoons. But dragoons are terrible in a melee, and although they shot up 2 of my units, 1 of my units got to him, and they go ahead and keep these guys busy and cause a massive amount of damage, because again, the light dragoons are completely inferior in melee stats to my crow horse warriors. There you can see them. And the infantry fight, at this point, all of my opponent's line infantry, for the most part, has been destroyed. And that's part of the native rush tactic. So my opponent was outflanking me, but I wasn't going to give him a whole lot of time to take advantage of having me outflanked. And here his Grenzers were trying to line up for some more shots, but on Napoleon Total War this tactic wouldn't work near as well because the troops reload much faster. But on Empire Total War this tactic is extremely effective, because it takes the troops so long to reload. So here you can see that his Grenzers, except for this one guy who gave that Indian an awesome stabbing, I have to admit that was cool. Anyway, his Grenzers are screwed, because once they get into melee combat, they're done for. And they didn't have time to reload or to shoot at me anymore. And Grenzers are definitely not made for melee combat. So you can check out my my crazy warriors here. He's trying to retreat his Grenzers because he wants to get them into firing distance, but he'll never get to firing distance because my men will just keep chasing him. And here you can see these Austrians trying to run as well, but they're being caught in the process and cut down. So your best advantage with the natives is to just get the European factions completely disorganized, because that's the type of fight that you're going to win. Getting the computer disorganized, making them waste their volleys, that's how you win the fight. You can see here, because his troops are running away, I'm able to hit them from behind, which causes problems as well. He gets back there and manages to pop off a couple of shots, but as you can see with the blinking flag, it is definitely taking a toll on his morale. And the Austrians are basically running for their lives. My leftover cavalry, which is few in number at this point, is chasing out the rest of his Grenzers, and the rest of his Grenzers are smart enough to try and run away. You can see that even running away is difficult. And as a person who ran cross-country in Oklahoma high school, I'm not saying this to stereotype, but most of the native Americans that I knew were quite fast, and so good luck outrunning them Austrians. Anyway, I'm going to charge into the remainder of his light dragoons before they can fire on me. You saw some of my Crow Horse Warriors firing the arrows before they go in for a melee, and that's part of what makes them so effective. And here there's one last unit of enemy light dragoons. They're going to be a little bit faster than mine because my men are tired. But I'll let you watch this. I'm basically going to continue to chase them around. I do not want to give them an opportunity to reload, and if I can get them into a melee fight, I will win. Light dragoons are very handy at disruption, but not so good at extended melee fights. Very handy unit though in Empire Total War as a whole. Very much worth your while to bring them into a battle. But this is pretty much the end of the battle. My opponent is doing what he can. You saw one horse drop right there. That's my arrow fire. And when my men get close enough, the arrow fire is quite accurate, and they can reload faster than musket-armed cavalry, or carbine-armed cavalry. So here they are, they're continuing to run. You can see some of my arrows firing in. Most of them are falling short because the light dragoons, like I said, they're not as worn out as my horsemen. But my men are going to keep firing nonetheless. And here I actually catch some of them. Get you a little bit of that action. Anyway, like I said, this fight is pretty much over. I have some highlights from one more battle I'll bring you, and I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll go ahead and skip to the results screen. Alright, here's the results screen to my Pueblo battle. Good game to my opponent. Alright, for my second battle, I am fighting on the Afghan Mountains map, and I am playing as France. My opponent's playing as Russia. My army consists of 4 Tirador, I think 4 or 5 line infantry, 1 Bukele's regiment, and 2 Swiss guards on the flanks. Here's my Tirador. I'm firing into the Russian line, and there you can see some rockets coming out. Now these effects are pretty good, but you can definitely tell that the smoke effects, smoke and dust effects on Empire Total War are not near as good as they were on Napoleon. So basically, my opponent didn't bring any rifle troops. He brought a bunch of line infantry. Here they are, you can see them. There's 3, 6, 8, 9. He's got several General's Bodyguard units. He must be a Rome Total War player, thinking that the General's Bodyguard units are stronger. He's got a couple of hand mortar companies, which is like little grenade launcher dudes. And then he's got 2 rocket troops. And out here, he's got a couple of General's Bodyguards and some, I believe, some line infantry hidden down there in the woods. Or 3 rocket troops, my bad. Now the rockets have kind of cool effects, but they're not near as devastating as they are in Napoleon. If this were Napoleon Total War, those 3 rockets would be a very real threat to my the morale of my troops. So here we're about to get into a line infantry fight. I fired my Tirador and forced my opponent forward, and now when he marches forward, he's going to face the wrath of a full volley of line infantry. I really do like the graphics on Empire Total War. It's quite good. I just wish the effects were better. If it was, then I really think that, in all honesty, I would like this game better than Napoleon Total War. But don't get me wrong, I really like Napoleon Total War. There's just some things about the gameplay I like better on this game. So there's my Swiss Guard across the way. Let's watch them in action. They fire off by platoon. So there they are. You can see the Russians dropping here under fire. So yeah, the action's a little bit... my opponent has his troops on fire in advance, which is strange. I've never seen anybody use that online. I don't guess there's anything particularly wrong with it. I just don't think it's quite as devastating as volley fire. But it may be a way to kind of put more continuous fire down. So if that's the case, then it's definitely accomplished again. It looks like the fire in advance is actually working much better than it did on Napoleon Total War. But here's where your problem comes in, where the men start to try and regroup before they keep doing it. I think that's where you start to lose out. I think if they fix the glitches with fire in advance, that it would actually be semi-effective. You can see that my opponent's troops are getting battered to pieces by my superior infantry, and my infantry also got the first shot in. So I'm going to just start moving forward and chase the Russian out. My opponent really didn't bring a very good army, but that's okay. He seemed probably relatively new to the game, or just hasn't played a whole lot of online battles yet, so I don't think he realized the power of skirmishers in this game. The skirmishers make a huge difference. I think he was counting on those artillery to deliver a knockout blow, and on Napoleon Total War they very well could have, but on Empire Total War artillery was quite ineffective. Now over here he caught my French Guard from the flank and killed or my Swiss Guard, sorry, from the flank and killed a lot of them. So I'm using my cavalry to temporarily distract his men while I reline my Swiss Guard. And I don't really care if my cavalry dies, because I have plenty of line infantry to reinforce. I have carabiners, sorry, or carbineers, probably a better way to say it, and carbineers, sorry, keep saying it wrong. Anyway, carbineers. And then I also have some cuirassier heavy cavalry. You'll notice I'm actually using heavy cavalry. I never do that hardly on Napoleon, because they're so slow. And they're still slow on this game, but I think they're a little more useful. So I'm just using them to run distraction. And see, now when my cavalry left, my Swiss Guard are already set back up and ready to continue firing. Plus, I've decided to just go in for the melee and make this kind of more like Rome Total War, because, like I said, my opponent's army is definitely outmatched by my own, so this will just kind of make it more interesting. So let's get the up-close bayonet fight here. You can see that when you run Empire Total War on high graphic settings, that the graphic settings are just as good, or I actually kind of think they're better than Napoleon Total War. It's just the effects. Whoa, man, my Swiss Guard just stabbed the heck out of that guy. That was awesome. Yeah, the Swiss Guard are extremely tough units. Something that you would not want to get into a melee fight with in a general sense. I think their uniforms look pretty cool. Anyway, I have the depth of field on too. I think that creates kind of a cool effect in the background. And there came in a bunch of rockets, and you can definitely tell the effects are pretty weak sauce. Because on Napoleon Total War that would have been really loud. They have cool like heat distortions around the rockets, but the explosion effects leave a lot to be desired. And here's basically all that's left of the Russian army. That was his hand mortars, firing off a couple. You can see that those are blowing up back there and killed some of my men. Let's watch them here. These are kind of an interesting unit. If they're used properly, they can be very effective. You just kind of use them at the right moments to shoot some grenades off, and basically you can fire the grenades from a little further away and save your men, a little bit of a pounding. So here he goes, but now my men are firing on him. You can see them starting to drop. My opponent went ahead and admitted defeat. Good game to my opponent. Hope you enjoyed this kind of quick throwback to Empire Total War. I was just playing tonight and figured you'd like this. I actually have a cool Napoleon battle I'm going to bring you soon. And I'll keep going on the Rome Total War campaigns as well. Anyway, see you later.